I'm looking at the Thursday schedule and there are no holds for special guests. And I'm like, this Beyonce thing is not real. There's no top. I mean, unless they're scamming us and there's a secret, program known only to Stephanie and Ricky Kirshner. So I'm like, well, I'll ask Stephanie. She picks up the phone. I don't know who's on the other line, but she goes, okay, one of us would have to know if it were true, right? I'm like, get out of town.
So even Stephanie Cutter, who was in charge of the convention, was unsure. All right, we are back. He was the digital director for Barack Obama 2012, Hillary 2016. We'll talk about that. Now he's a co-founder and managing partner at Precision, a strategy and marketing agency. He heads the corporatist wing of the DSA. My buddy, Goff. Teddy Goff, what's up?
Hi, Tim. Good to be here.
That's pretty good. Did I miss anything else on your bio? Anything else you want to share with people?
No, that's my entire life in 3 sentences. Triumph, failure, pivot to corporate.
Okay. Well, I want to talk to you about the convention. Your colleague at Precision, Steph Cutter, was the head woman in charge over there. So I want to get some convention stories, and I also just want to talk about some digital strategy with you. But first, I just, right before you came on, I was just reminded of that this is the 10-year anniversary of a big moment. Do you know what it is? August 28th, 2014. Do you know what happened?
No.
Barack Obama came out to a press conference and wore a khaki suit.
Oh, is this Tan Suit Day?
10-year anniversary.
Oh, wow.
Anniversary.
Memories.
We all celebrate. I'm upset that I'm not in theme.
I'm like, no, you're just in a striped polo.
Were you horrified that day as a homosexual staffer? Or did you feel like his sartorial choices challenged you at all?
I feel that he's a style icon. I wouldn't have chosen the tan suit, but I feel like he was probably coming from or going to Martha's Vineyard, and it was giving late summer Martha's Vineyard, and I wasn't horrified at all. I was proud of him. The man has a right to step out a little. It's not an easy job.
Yeah, okay, that's right. He deserves it. Obama deserves it. I do think the tan suit scandal was blown a little bit out of proportion. I know that's
a little bit.
Yeah, I know.
Well, you guys at the time, you were still among you guys, had so little on him that you just need you were grasping it at straws.
Anything. You didn't. This is a nice transition to the convention. I was having nights, so nobody remembers this except me and Stuart Stevens. But at the 2012 convention, we dedicated an entire day to the "You didn't build that" gaffe.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that well. I was so infuriated by that because it was so stupid. I mean, it's
you
so
didn't
stupid.
Build that. Yeah. The whole community made that happen. Yeah, socialist, communist, Obama. We were struggling, man. We were looking for whatever we had.
There wasn't much. Yeah, there wasn't much.
All right, I want to hear some positive memories. I want to hear some behind the scenes. I saw your Instagram, but the big question that I just have to ask you as a tough journalist is, what was with the choke on Beyonce? All right, people are saying Beyonce's coming. TMZ's saying it. What was back in the war room? Was not anybody just like, hey, maybe we should tamp the Beyonce thing down?
So I have a funny story about this that I need to probably not tell all of, but I'll tell most of. So as you mentioned, my incredible business partner Stephanie ran the entire convention. I didn't have anything to do with it until probably 2 weeks prior when I started getting pulled in to this or that. And so I did wind up being in the programming room for the week itself. And, this Beyonce rumor is kind of bubbling over the course of Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm looking at the schedule. There had been for Wednesday, a 6 or 8 or whatever minute block for a special guest. But by, let's say, Tuesday, that was filled in with the word Oprah. So I'm looking at the Thursday schedule and there are no holds for special guests. And I'm like, this Beyonce thing is not real. There's no top. I mean, unless they're scamming us and there's a secret, program known only to Stephanie and Ricky Kirshner, but not to the other 5 people working on this, then there's no possibility. But I keep hearing it. And then I start hearing it from relatively senior folks in the party and at the conventions on Thursday morning.
White House staffers are tweeting out bees.
Yeah. So I try. Exactly. So I walk into the programming room and I'm so embarrassed to do this, but I have to go to one of my colleagues and be like, I'm so embarrassed to do this. Is this Beyonce thing true? And there's 4 or 5 people there and they all look around and they're like, we don't know. And I'm like, is this because everyone's afraid to go ask Stephanie? And they're like, kind of. So I'm like, well, shit, I'll ask Stephanie. So an hour or 2 later, she picks up the phone. I don't know who's on the other line, but she goes, okay, one of us would have to know if it were true, right? I'm like, get the fuck out of town.
So even Stephanie Cutter, who was in charge of the convention, was unsure. She was like, maybe this is happening above my head. Maybe Kamala.
So what that referred to, I mean, I died laughing, but what that in fact referred to was she coming? Because the fact of the matter is, she wasn't in the program. I mean, Stephanie knew, but I think it was a little hard to get to the bottom of it. Is it possible she's coming? And various reporters were calling saying, I've got a source from the Chicago PD that her plane has landed and blah, blah, blah. I don't have her cell phone, so we can't disprove it. But it was actually kind of a thorn in the side of the convention team that day because they didn't want that to be the story, to the point where they, wound up just having to, call up reporters and say it's not true, just to try to kill this thing dead, which it still didn't. And, obviously we all love Beyonce, but, the fact of the matter is, first of all, you don't want the data to be consumed with this rumor. And second of all, you don't particularly want network cutaways to Beyonce every 15 minutes during Kamala's speech. Yeah. So I was glad she was not there, with all respect to Beyonce. And, I wish the rumor had been killed a bit sooner.
Yeah, it did seem to work out. I feel like you could do a social science experiment on how that happened. Like you're all asking around. It's reminiscent on. I'm trying to get my husband's old boss Heidi Heitkamp on the pod next week. She was supposed to be on last week, but we got rescheduled. It was my fault. And it reminds me of, there was a rumor going around at her Christmas party that she was going to go work for Trump, and like everybody was standing in the corner, like kind of talking. And it's like, this is on Twitter and stuff. And I was just like, has anybody asked her? And they're like, no, we don't want to ask her. And I was just like, well, I don't fucking care. I was like, I just went up to her and I was like, are you going to work for Trump or not? And she was like, no. And I was like, your staff thinks you're going to work for Trump. Like, sometimes you just got to clear things up. It's just important just to just say no.
Well, that's why JD Vance should have just clarified that he never
fucked the couch.
Fucked the couch, yeah.
Yeah, it would have been very easy. Just put out a clear statement. That's good. That's PR 101.
Yeah,
that's PR 101 right exactly. There. All right. Any other good stuff? I mean, it's great. Like, so Stephanie, refresh me. Was working on it even when it was supposed to be a Biden convention, or no?
Yeah, because this stuff gets going like, I don't know, 6-7 months ago, something like that.
So like, how much of the the rejiggering? I mean, it's fun. I like, just as an amateur watching it, like you look at it and it's like, well, clearly some of the stuff they rejiggered, and some of it's like, all right, we got to do the best we can. Like Chris Coons is still speaking on Wednesday or whatever. No offense, Chris, we love you, but like that had to be challenging, right? Like navigating all of the principles. I don't know. And any interesting nuggets on kind of how she overcame that in such a, whatever it was, 4 or 5 week sprint there?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I don't want to overstate my involvement. Like I said, I just kind of got involved a couple of weeks ago, but yeah, I mean, I think you want to, reshape the thing in the vice president's image. Not all of the speakers need to change, but all of the speeches need to change. All of the videos need to change. Videos take a while, And the other thing that started happening is, there was just so much incoming. I mean, I think I'm not like oversharing here when I say, certain celebrities and, musical artists and even electeds became more interested in speaking at the Harris Convention than they had been. So you have to make room for a lot of stuff, and obviously that means
certain podcasters, certain self-important podcasters went from boycotting the convention to wanting to live stream and have a prominent.
Well, place, I think those self-important podcasters had been banned from the perimeter, so not necessarily a boycott of their own. Their own initiative, but yeah, some of our great leaders in the Democratic Party have an interesting relationship with time limits, and so you've got to navigate that. So again, I don't want to overstate my involvement, but I think the thing changed like 100%. I think there was not a single element that did not change.
Yeah. I mean, just the final thing on convention stuff, and everybody had to just feel overjoyed. I mean, the big takeaway, from the week, was like just being able to transition it to Kamala, demonstrate momentum. And then I think this sort of big, broad outreach to like the widest possible number of Americans. Like, to me, that was my takeaway from it. Like, she might not get 53% or 54%, but the convention was we're trying to talk to 54%, at least the last
Absolutely.
Days. And that's what I liked about it.
It was great.
Did you have a favorite celebrity sighting? Anything that?
All right, I debated with myself whether I was going to tell this story, but I'm just going to go for it.
This is why I'm a penetrating interviewer.
Yeah, exactly. It's the stripes. I can't say no. So I had a very cool experience and privilege of being backstage, and the backstage area is tiny. I mean, it's a corridor maybe 10 feet wide and 200 feet long with tiny little offices on either side. But I mean, everybody is back there if they're an hour before their speech or an hour after. And so at one point, Spike Lee was back there. Now, he was not on the speaker program, but he was brought back there. and he runs into Stevie Wonder, who had just performed. And I didn't know this, but they go way back, and Spike's kind of holding court, and there's like a little scrum around them because this is an incredible interaction. And I want to just preface this by saying this was a joke. I'm not making Spike Lee look bad. This was in good fun, and they were kidding around. Spike says something like, Stevie, I always tell people, you performed at my wedding. There's been so much love between the two of us. And Stevie Wonder goes, yeah, there's been love. That's good. That's nice. But you never paid me. And Spike is like, doesn't know what to say. And he's like, I guess and Stevie cuts him off and he goes, baby, love is love, but money is money. And I'm just there being like, I cannot believe I witnessed this. It was just the best. And if you're back there, it was special, but there's just cool stuff happening, all the time.
That's also true at the Republican convention. We have to be fair. I mean, Trump telling story, Hogan owed Trump money. Yeah. Kid Rock. Trump didn't pay Kid Rock for an appearance at Bedminster one time. Like there's a little tension there.
And Scott Baio seems like a pip in person. He seems,
He really is.
His brain is
in charge.
He remains forever and ever.
All the celeb stuff. Now getting into your actual expertise, unlike your kind of stolen valor from all Stephanie Cutter's work there.
Thank you.
The digital stuff. It's kind of amazing, like how much of this is just happens organically. And just as a general comment, like political strategists are so overrated. Like there's just bad ones 100%. And good ones. And like you just do the best you can. But like it's the same exact digital team working for Biden and as for Harris, essentially, right? Like and just overnight it changes, right? And Kamala's there, and you have like the attitude is different, the vibe is different. The memes are different. You have all these celebrities coming in. You're in Brat Summer. And literally the Kamala HQ Twitter is a Charlie XCX Brat logo. Like it all happens in 48 hours. And like it really seems to work. Like all of the data that you look at shows that just the sentiment around the ticket changed, just completely inverted, like in the matter of a week. So like talk about like how like the best ways to channel that is, can they continue to nudge it through November? Do you reach a cringe point? How do you think about all that?
Yeah, so first of all, I couldn't agree with you more that strategists are overrated, and then when they lose, get shit that they didn't deserve. Like the thing I used to say during the Obama days, like you could put a camera in front of Barack Obama, have him say some stuff, put that on the internet, and people would be like, "I love this. Wow, his digital team must be great." And you could do the exact same thing with Jeb Bush, let's say, and people are like, "I don't like this. His communications team is not good." And that's just how it goes. So I think. So I think the Harris team is doing an incredible job, and I think they were doing a really good and best job they possibly could with Biden. But obviously, and other people have said this, but obviously, you can get away with a certain kind of meme speak with Kamala that if it were Biden would have just been counterproductive because everybody knows that's not his politics and he has no idea what any of this is. But the other thing that I think they're really benefiting from right now, like I think. Like people always talk about enthusiasm in politics, and enthusiasm is, obviously super, super duper important. But there's this other factor that I think is as important, particularly when it comes to public actions, putting up a yard sign, putting up a poster in your dorm room, retweeting something or whatever, which is like social acceptability. You could be super enthusiastic about someone, which tons of people were about Hillary, tons of people were about Biden. But if you put your hand on the stove, you retweet something from Joe Biden and you get a million replies saying he's old, I hate him. Yeah. You've just been taught a lesson that you shouldn't do that again. And, I think that what we've got going for us right now and what is like absolutely essential to preserve as best we can, and it won't be able to be fully preserved, is people are jazzed about Kamala. That's great. But also in many circles in the United States, not all of them, obviously, you can reshare something about Kamala on Instagram and, you're going to get a lot of replies, indicating that you've just done a cool thing rather than indicating that you've just done something horrible that makes you look like a complete fucking loser, Right. And that's as important, I think, as enthusiasm. And I think that's the thing we've got to try to figure out how to sustain. And one of the things that I think is really helping with that is this whole white dudes for Kamala thing. You can make fun of that. Maybe it's
you liked that. I did make fun of that. I didn't like that.
I just
don't like self-selecting based on race. It's not really for me. Whites groups are not. You could have gone whites groups are not for you now that you switch parties. But you could have gone to Deadheads for That's true. I'm going to Yimby's. I'm going to Yimby's for Kamala tonight. That's much more in my alley.
I love that. But yeah, so I mean, I think I had mixed feelings about the white dudes thing, but I mean, I think it is so important to show people, like, not only is it okay to support this person, it can be cool to support this person. It can be cool to do so even if you're like a white dude or a NFL quarterback or whatever. And I think it's really important to sustain that. At the same time, I think. And I think they're doing this. I don't think I'm saying anything that they don't know. Vibes are vibes, but people are a little smarter than that. So I think it's important that we continue to have fun with this election. I think the memes are great, and it's great to make fun of JD Vance and all of that. But, people do need to understand what we stand for. We cannot get carried away with the meme thing, not only because it might become cringe, but also because it is not enough. And, ultimately, people have got to have a pretty clear understanding of who this woman is, what it is she intends to do as president, and not just who Donald Trump is in terms of a boorish figure, but how he would hurt you if he were to be elected president in material ways. And, they've got to make sure that comes through even as they continue to have fun with the memes.
All right, y'all. When you're on cable and YouTube all the time and you're just seeing everything from the waist up, sometimes I'm looking in my closet. I'm saying I'm running out of shirts. I need to mix it up a little bit. We need some fresh material. And so I was so excited to partner up with our new sponsor at Quince. Quince asks, do you ever open your closet and say, why did I buy that? You better believe that I do that all the time. But since shopping with Quince, I've seen fewer misses and more hits. Things I'm going to be wearing live stream after live stream. Quince has all the seasonal must-haves, like 100% European linen shirts from just $30, performance polos, and versatile activewear. The best part, all Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. By partnering directly with top factories, Quince cuts out the cost of the middleman and passes the savings on to us. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices, along with premium fabrics and finishes. I love that. I got this little kind of short sleeve button up. I bet you've seen it. I bet you've seen me wearing it on the podcast lately. You're like, oh man, Tim's looking a little fancier than usual. He's not just in that boring chambray that he likes to stick with. So I love it. I'm going to be going back to Quince to be getting some more new shirts for you. So you got to keep an eye out for that. Fill your closet with timeless pieces you'll be wearing for summers to come with Quince. Go to quince.com/thebulwark for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/thebulwark to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/thebulwark. You won't regret it. So what is if that's, the vibes thing is happening kind of naturally, that's going. What do they actually need to do? Who do they need to reach? What are some, what are some strategies they called you up today and were like, okay, we only have 10 weeks. I we really got to focus on one group or one platform or one tactic. What jumps out at you?
They wouldn't ask that because I think what I think we need to be able to do as a Democratic Party is do multiple things at once. I mean,
I know the consultants speak. I know. Yeah, they got to do all of them. I'm just saying, what are some high valence?
I'm all for throwing out certain audiences because I do think we waste money on, we love to think that we're gonna, win back the Joe Rogan voters, and it's what? There's 10 times more people of color and white people, by the way, who are with us more or less ideologically, but who don't believe it's worth their while to go vote, either because they think it's going to take too long or because they think their vote may literally not be counted, or because they think nothing ever changes in their lives. So they could take the 5 minutes and maybe their vote is counted, and then the next 4 years are going to look like the last 4 years. And, there are way more of those than there are.
This is actually an important distinction because I talk about this group a lot. So let's sit on this for a second, because Joe Rogan voter is sometimes a stand-in for I'm a guy and I'm 27 and I'm generally socially liberal or whatever. Maybe I don't like all the woke stuff. I might be black or brown. I might be white. Doesn't matter. But I mostly consume, pardon my take, I mostly consume sports or just whatever, video game, media. I don't consume any of this regular media. I don't watch cable. I don't read the newspaper. They demographically, you would think might be a Kamala voter. Is that how do you reach those people? Is that worth even trying to reach? Is that voter only worth reaching if they're black or brown, just because that makes them more likely to vote for Kamala, and you're just trying to maximize resources? How do you think about that?
I think a couple things on this. I think for the most part, there's exceptions to everything, obviously. But for the most part, a person who's kind of a low information voter has made a decision they want to be a low information voter, either because they're fed up with all this stuff and they just don't want to hear it, or because, like I was just saying, they have made the not necessarily irrational decision that it's not worth their time and things don't change for them. Or because they've chosen to receive bad information and they're having fun receiving the bad information. So, there's very few people who don't know where to turn to, look up the issues and look up the candidates if they want to do that. So they've made that choice. So I think we need to understand at as narrow a level as we possibly can, why they've made that choice and what it would take to get them to reconsider that choice. I think, for the person who's just, fucking fed up with politics in both parties, I think, yes, the odds are the Democrats would be a lot better for their lives than the Republicans are. But, that is the person who's going to be very, very, very hard to speak to. For the person who has lost faith that their vote's going to count and that the government can do something for them, I think that is someone that we can reach. But we need to do so. We need to understand, they've made these decisions that they've made, because they don't like what they're hearing from our party, the other party, and they're tired of stuff that sounds same cycle after cycle. So that's one of the reasons I'm super jazzed that Kamala is kind of going all in on housing policy, and I'm not just catering to your YIMBY sensibilities here. That's something that really, really means something to every 27-year-old in this country. Right. The rent is too damn high, and you don't hear that from presidential candidates. And I think there's a chance that has the kind of stickiness for people that student debt had for Bernie, not just because it's a young person issue, but because it's an issue that real people, and by the way, 95% of them, you got to be in the absolute upper classes to not care about your rent or have some student debt, care about, and they haven't, heard stuff about. So, I think some of it is spokespeople. I think Tim Walz sounds different, not the same, but in a similar way to how Bernie sounded different. I think some of it is platform. I do, despite everything I'm saying, think we should send people onto Joe Rogan. We can't just refuse to talk to tens of millions of people. But, I think, ultimately people have got to, feel that something is in this for them, feel that it's plausible. We can't be out there saying, we'll abolish rent. That's not believable. Feel that there's something plausibly in it for them.
I know you wish you could.
If they felt like there could, if they feel like there's a realistic path to a, 5% reduction in their rent, that's worth the 10 minutes to vote.
So the highest ROI thing on digital at this point, you think is what? Trying to register. I this thing, it's different than when you were in. Like in 2012, I say this all the time, the Obama, in some ways, kind of, there was a lot more low-hanging fruit, right? Because the non-voter, if you could just get them registered into the system, they're probably going to vote for Obama, right? But now, the least engaged voters are much more split, right? Than they were back in 2012, when it was Romney and Obama, right? And so, is the ROI better? I don't know. I guess I leave it as an open question. There's 10 weeks. You have seen good registration numbers increase for young women, Black women. Is that just it? Just go where the fish are and just try to max juice numbers on digital? Or is there
sort of? Yeah. I mean, look, I think first of all, we haven't even touched on the fundraising, but obviously the fundraising is bananas, and that allows them to go do all the other stuff,
right.
Including online, including offline. I do think there's huge pockets of people who need to be registered and who would, turn out for us, even if it's only 60-40 rather than, 80-20. That could still be good, especially if we have enough data to make sure that we're really doing the most follow up with the 60%. And so I don't know where there's the most ROI on the internet, but I think, needless things, it's sort of it's an interesting question, Tim, but needless to say,
you're a digital strategist. You're a highly paid digital strategist. I just want to know where your ROI is at. I don't know. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that was such a trick question.
I'm used to, I guess different kinds of questions. I mean, I think, I think they've got to use paid media to reach both whatever number of people we think can be persuaded, and that's not all that many people, but it's some. I think we would be making an absolute mistake not to be using paid media to speak to our infrequent voters, our soft voters, and not just at the end with a reminder to vote, but now through the end, reminding them what we stand for. And I think getting at this idea, however we want to get at it, that government can help you. It's not going to radically change your life in 4 years, but it is worth believing that things can change for the better if you have a better government rather than
this is worth your time. It took you a
then
minute
it's worth
to
your
get there,
time.
but this is a good insight, right? It's like the people that people that are not engaged are not engaged. The people that are gettable for Kamala that are not engaged because they don't think it's worth their time. Like the people that are most
And they don't think it's worth their time and their faith. You know, like they
Right.
don't want to feel like they've been duped. You know, like I voted for the Democrats yet again and yet again. Nothing changed. You know, like
makes sense. Okay. I've one dumb question that people in our Slack. I guess the ROI question was dumb too, but I have a second an even dumber question for you that people in our Slack are wondering. Why is Donald Trump advertising on the Bulwark's YouTube? Are they just doing a really bad job, or is YouTube or is advertising targeting a lot harder these days because of the way that the platform's changed? You know, how you can do political advertising and like what's the story with that?
So advertising, I mean, they probably, you know, I mean, I wonder if they don't think of you and your audience a little bit. I'm not trying to insult your fabulous audience, but a little bit the way that we might think about Joe Rogan. These people who, you know, they're not far left. Could they possibly be gettable?
Right,
now,
sure,
I don't think that's true of your audience, but I wonder if they think that. But yeah, to the other part of your question, there is less you can do now, especially on, so some platforms don't allow political advertising at all, especially TikTok, which is, you know, it would be great in some ways and horrible in some ways if you could, but you can't. You know, certainly the Google platforms, of which YouTube is one, don't allow individual targeting in the way that they used to. So you know, it's interesting because while the hypothetical capabilities around data have gotten way more sophisticated over the years, the things you're allowed to do with that data have in some ways gotten less sophisticated. And so, yeah, you've got to choose by channel, by show, by audience in a broad way rather than a, you know, one-to-one match of human beings way. And you know, and by the way, the campaigns, you know, to some degree have more money they can spend. So, you know, I think those would be some of the reasons why they might.
Why not try
lining your pocket with that Trump?
We appreciate it. Keep on sending it to us, Donald Trump. It's better than sending it to your lawyers. Okay, while we're making fun of Trump, I got one more. There's a story here. NPR. At Arlington Cemetery, Trump was there earlier this week. 2 members of Trump's campaign staff had a verbal and physical altercation with an official at Arlington. The cemetery official tried to prevent Trump staffers from filming and photographing in a section where recent U.S. casualties are buried, known as Section 60. Trump's spokesperson said that the person that was preventing them from taking the pictures was clearly suffering from a mental health episode. So these people are rotten to the core. And I'm just wondering... it just kind of made me think, like, I'm curious on your take to make fun of them, but like these things are kind of more challenging. I mean, you had to deal with this, right, with Obama and Hillary, like, you know, like negotiating these sorts of situations. Obviously, you just weren't a dick like them, but I'm curious what your reaction was.
You typically don't accuse people of having a mental health breakdown because you've physically attacked them. That guy Stephen Cheung, by the way, just seems like the absolute worst person in Trump land. You know, it's interesting.
Person.
You know, like I never tried to film a campaign ad at Arlington because it's a disgusting idea. But, you know, you are often dealing with, you know, people who were victims of gun violence or their children were, or, you know, people who are in very, very delicate positions. And in the circles and parties that I've always traveled in, you know, you actually like think about how to treat them with dignity and sensitivity. And you do want to get the content or convince them to speak at the convention or whatever it is you're trying to do. But you want to do so in a way that they come away from that experience feeling that you've, you know, handled this proper. And that doesn't seem to be the MO for the Trump people. But Trump, you know, the other thing with Trump is just like, you know, it's sort of like JD and the, you know, people without children thing. Like there's something deep in Trump's core that just like disdains soldiers who've been wounded or killed in action. And it's just like, where does that, I didn't even know that's an opinion you could have. Yeah. Like, where does it come from? But it just
I understand
endemic.
The JD thing, at least, right? That's just a cultural thing. Like, he just hates single women and he feels like, you know, whatever, they're annoying, they're Karens. But like the Trump thing, I don't know. There's some, I think it's the bone spurs. Maybe it's like some sort of jealousy. That's me putting him on the couch. We're out of time, but I do have one last question. Are the reason that we're here right now, that I'm doing a Never Trump podcast because you didn't run enough digital ads in Wisconsin in 2016? Have you thought about that? Is that are you the core problem?
Am I the root?
Like the root of our American troubles right now?
No, I think that you woke up one morning and the better angels of your nature started speaking to you, and that would have happened. That would have happened either way. I think a President Hillary, by the way, would have pulled you into our party even faster. So
really, I love that counterfactual. I love that counterfactual. Thank you, Teddy. Please come back soon. This has been delightful. And I appreciate you. Give our love to Steph. Cutter.
I will.
Congratulate her on a wonderful convention. 3 out of 4 nights. Really great. And to everybody else, we'll be back tomorrow with one of the key convention speakers who, thank God, you guys gave such a prime slot to. Good on you for doing it. Adam Kinzinger on the pod tomorrow. We'll see you all then. Peace.